But it wasn't close. The dinosaur stood 40 feet away at the edge of the illumination from the headlamps. Nedry hadn't taken the tour, so he hadn't seen the different types of dinosaurs, but this one was strange looking. The 10-foot tall body was yellow with black spots, and along the head ran a pair of red V-shaped crests. The dinosaur didn't move, but it gave a soft hooting cry. Nedry waited to see if it would attack. It didn't. Perhaps the headlight from the Jeep frightened it, forcing it to keep its distance, like a fire. The dinosaur stared at him, and then snapped its head in a single swift motion. Nedry felt something smack wetly against his chest. He looked down and saw a dripping glob of foam on his rain-soaked shirt. He touched it curiously, not comprehending. It was spit. The dinosaur had spit on him. It was creepy, he thought. He looked back at the dinosaur and saw the head snap again, and immediately felt something wet smack against his neck, just above the shirt collar. He wiped it away with his hands. Jesus, it was disgusting, but the skin of his neck was already starting to tingle and burn, and his hand was tingling too. It was almost like he'd been touched with acid. Nedry opened the car door, glancing back at the dinosaur to make sure it wasn't going to attack, and felt a sudden, excruciating pain in his eyes, stabbing like spikes into the back of his skull. He squeezed his eyes shut and gasped with the intensity of it and threw up his hands to cover his eyes, and felt the slippery foams trickling down both sides of his nose. Spit. The dinosaur had spit in his eyes. Even as he realized it, the pain overwhelmed him. He dropped to his knees, disoriented, wheezing. He collapsed onto his side, his cheek pressed into the wet ground, his breath coming in thin whistles through the constant, ever-screaming pain that caused flashing spots of light to appear behind his tightly shut eyelids. The earth shook beneath him. Nedry knew the dinosaur was moving. He could hear its soft hooting cry, and despite the pain, he forced his eyes open. But he still saw nothing. Spots against black. And then, the realization came to him. He was blind. The hooting was louder as Nedry scrambled back to his feet and staggered back against the side panel of the car, as a wave of nausea and dizziness swept over him. The dinosaur was close now. He could feel it coming close. He was dimly aware of its snorting breath, but he couldn't see. He couldn't see anything, and his terror was extreme. He stretched out his hands, waving them wildly in the air to ward off the attack he knew was coming. And then there was a new, searing pain, like a fiery knife in his belly. Reaching blindly down to touch the ragged edge of his shirt, he then felt a thick, slippery mass that was surprisingly warm. With horror, he suddenly knew what he was holding: his own intestines. The dinosaur had torn him open. His guts had fallen out. Nedry fell to the ground and landed on something scaly and cold. It was the animal's foot. And then there was a new pain on both sides of his head. The pain grew worse, and as he was lifted to his feet, he knew the dinosaur had his head in its jaws, and then the horror of that realization was followed by one final wish: that it would all be ended soon.